Welcome back to the Deep Dive. We are really glad you're here. Today, we are opening up a topic that, honestly, often gets a really bad rap in the tech world. It's something that sounds a little bureaucratic, maybe even a bit boring. Traceability.
It really does. I always call it the vegetable of the software world. Everyone knows they need it, but nobody really wants to do it.
Right. It feels like homework.
Yeah.
But here's the hook for today. We're looking at sources that argue traceability isn't just for, compliance or keeping auditors happy. It's actually the secret weapon for speed.
Exactly. If you want to move fast without breaking things, this is the mechanism.
And we are going to explore this through the lens of a specific tool, Xray Cloud, which lives right inside Jira.
And we've got the technical specs, we've got the ISTQB Agile Mindset Principles, and because we know a lot of you use these deep dives to sharpen your professional English, we're going to spotlight the vocabulary you need to sound like an expert in any global team.
So let's start with that elephant in the room, the QA myth. I mean, I've been on small teams. We're sprinting. We're drinking way too much coffee. We're shipping code. Do I really need traceability? It just feels like paperwork. Can't I just, test it, say it works, and move on?
That is the temptation. It really is.
Yeah.
We're agile. We don't do documentation.
Huh.
But if you look at the ISTQB Agile principles we're covering, that's just a fundamental misunderstanding of what agile is.
So it's not just making things up as you go along.
No, not at all. Agile is a continuous process. If you treat testing as this separate phase, something you do really quickly at the end to check a box, you're doing it wrong. The source material is so firm on this. Without traceability, you don't actually know what you've tested. You might feel confident, but you don't have the data to back it up.
So it's the difference between I think we're good and I can prove we're good.
That's it. And that is our mission today. We want to show you how a tool like Xray Cloud provides that proof. And we've got 4 key terms to listen for: requirement coverage, test execution, traceability matrix, and defect.
All B1 to B2 level terms, and they come up constantly. So let's lay the foundation, the agile context. Why has testing changed so much?
Well, just think about the traditional model, the waterfall model. You build and build and build for, 6 months, and then you throw it over the wall to the testers?
And suddenly the testers are the bad guys because they find all the problems right before the big deadline.
It's adversarial, yeah. But the sources we looked at really highlight the whole team approach in Agile. It's a huge cultural shift. Quality isn't just the tester's job anymore.
Which sounds great in a manifesto, but what does that actually look like on a Tuesday morning?
It means collaboration. The developer is writing the code, but the tester is right there, providing that testing mindset during the build. They're not waiting. They're asking, how are we going to test this before a line of code is even written?
That connects to a concept I saw in the notes. Shift left.
Yes, shift left. Just imagine your project timeline goes from left to right. Left is the start, right is the release. Traditionally, testing was way over on the right. We're just moving it, to the left, testing early.
And because Agile moves in sprints, and for anyone taking notes, a sprint is that short, time-boxed iteration, usually about 2 weeks. You don't have 6 months to figure this stuff out.
You have days, maybe hours. And this is where the why of traceability really kicks in. If requirements are changing every couple of days, and you're testing every day, you need a map. You need to know that this test links to that requirement, that link. That's traceability.
Okay, so it's not paperwork, it's continuous feedback.
Correct. It's about knowing the status of your product in real time. Which brings us to the tool itself, Xray Cloud.
I've used Jira for years. It's like the operating system for Agile teams. But testing usually lives somewhere else, in a spreadsheet or some legacy tool.
And that separation is the enemy of speed. Xray is different because it's a Jira app. It integrates natively.
Why is that such a big deal, though? Is it just about avoiding alt-tabbing between windows?
It's so much more than that. It's about the data model. In the past, you'd have your user story in Jira, as a user, I want to reset my password.
Right.
And then in a totally separate spreadsheet, you have a row that says test password reset if that user story in Jira changes.
The spreadsheet has no idea. And you're suddenly testing an old version of the requirement. Oof. That sounds like a recipe for disaster.
It is. Xray solves this by using Jira issue types.
Walk me through that. What does it mean for a test to be an issue type?
So in Jira, you have epics, stories, bugs, tasks. Those are all issue types, right? Xray literally adds new ones to that list. Test, test set, test execution, and test plan.
Wait, hold on. So a test is treated exactly the same way a bug or a user story is?
Technically, yes. It has a ticket number. It has a status, it has an assignee, it lives in the exact same database.
That seems like such a small detail, but it actually changes everything. It means I can link them together just like I link any other Jira ticket.
Precisely. You don't need some fragile connector or an API integration that breaks every other week. It's all one ecosystem.
This leads me to the concept that really stood out from the reading, the traceability matrix. Now, matrix sounds intimidating. Help us visualize this.
Let's use an analogy, a road trip. Imagine your software project is a road trip.
Okay, I'm driving. Hopefully better than I do in real life.
Let's hope so. Now, if you don't have traceability, you are driving without a GPS. You might be going 100 miles an hour, you feel super productive.
Yeah.
But do you have any idea if you're actually heading towards your destination?
I could be driving very efficiently towards a cliff.
You could be. Or just driving in circles. The traceability matrix is your GPS. It connects all the dots in a single line. First, you have the requirement. That is your destination. Build a login page. Second, the test case. That's the route you planned. Enter username and password.
Okay, so I know where I'm going and how I plan to get there.
Third, you have test execution. That is the actual drive itself. Did you follow the route? Did you make it? And finally, if you crashed, you have a defect, a roadblock.
So the matrix isn't just a static list. It's a flow, a story. Requirement leads to test, leads to execution, which might lead to a defect.
Right. And Xray visualizes all of this. You can look at a user story in Jira and see right there on the screen, this story has 3 tests. 2 passed, 1 failed. You have total visibility.
That is so powerful. It just stops that awkward moment where project manager asks, "Are we done?" And everyone just kind of looks at their shoes.
It replaces, I think so, with look at the dashboard.
Let's dig a bit deeper into the mechanics here. We mentioned requirement coverage. Is that just a fancy way of saying percentage of tests passed?
Not quite. It's actually more fundamental than that. It answers the question, have we even planned to test this feature? Think about it. In a big project, you might have 100 user stories. It is so easy to build a feature and just forget to write a test for it.
So requirement coverage flags the blind spots.
Exactly. Xray gives you a report. If a user story has no test link to it, its coverage status is uncovered. It's a gap in your GPS map. It's a warning light saying, you're building this, but you have no way to verify it works.
That is a terrifying thought for a release day.
Yeah.
But surely setting all this up takes forever. If I have to manually link every single test, isn't that just slowing the team down?
That's a valid concern. And if you were doing it all manually, yes, it would take time. But this is where automation comes in.
Ah, okay. The source material mentioned continuous integration and CI/CD.
This is absolutely crucial for modern teams. You're not just clicking buttons manually anymore. You probably have automated tests running in Jenkins or GitLab or Azure DevOps.
Right. So I have a robot running a script at 3 a.m. How does Xray know what happened?
Xray has a REST API. So your Jenkins pipeline runs the tests. It generates a result file, usually in a format like Junit XML or JSON, and it just sends it straight to Xray.
So Xray automatically creates the test execution ticket in Jira based on what the robot did.
Yes. It creates the execution, links it back to the test, which is already linked to the requirement, and it updates the coverage status, all without a human touching it.
That pretty much kills the "it takes too much time" argument, doesn't it?
It really does. It turns documentation into a byproduct of your automated process.
I want to touch on something a bit technical but really interesting from the notes. BDD and Gherkin. We hear these buzzwords a lot. Given, when, then. How does Xray handle that?
This is a huge feature for collaboration. So BDD is behavior-driven development. The problem it solves is translation. Business people speak English, developers speak code.
And they usually misunderstand each other.
Constantly. Gherkin is the bridge. It's a special syntax that lets you write tests in plain English. For example, given I am on the login screen, when I enter a wrong password, then I should see an error message.
Okay, that's clear enough for a CEO to understand. But how does the computer run that test?
That's the magic. Xray lets you create a test issue type using that Gherkin syntax right in Jira. Then you can export it to your automation framework like Cucumber or SpecFlow. The framework reads those plain English sentences and matches them to blocks of code.
So the product owner can basically write the test structure in plain English inside Jira, and Xray pushes it to the developers to automate.
Exactly. It democratizes quality. It means the definition of done is agreed upon by everyone before a single line of code is even written.
That is the definition of the whole team approach right there.
It connects the business requirement directly to the code execution. Traceability isn't just about finding bugs. It's about making sure you built the right thing in the first place.
I want to pivot to the business impact. We saw some pretty big stats in the source material. It said tools like this can increase team productivity up to 95% and reduce development costs by 29%. Those are bold numbers.
They are. But think about the cost of a bug.
Well, if I find a bug 5 minutes after I wrote the code, it takes me, what, 10 minutes to fix?
Maybe less. You're still in the zone. You remember the logic. But if that same bug slips through, goes to QA, maybe even slips out to production, suddenly you've got customer support tickets, emergency patches, reputational damage.
The cost of quality skyrockets the later you find it.
That's the 29% savings. Traceability helps you find the defect during the sprint when it's cheap to fix, not weeks later when it's a crisis.
All right, we've talked a lot of theory. I want to hear what this sounds like in the real world. We prepared a little role play to show how this vocabulary, this data, changes the conversation.
Right. So the scenario is, it's Friday afternoon, the pressure is on.
I'll play the project manager. I'm stressed. I have a client breathing down my neck, and I just want to hear the word yes.
And I'll be the tester. And I'm going to use Xray data to give you a professional answer, not just my opinion.
Okay, let's do it. As PM. Look, we need to launch the new portal by 5 p.m. The developers say the code is merged, the build is green. Are we ready to release? Is the new login feature safe?
As tester, I can't give you a simple yes just yet. Let me just pull up the requirement coverage report in Xray.
As PM, does it look green? Come on, the client is emailing me every 10 minutes. We really need to go live with this.
As tester, one moment. Okay, looking at the dashboard now. We have executed 5 tests for this user story. The coverage on the happy path, the normal login, is at 100% passed.
As PM. Great, that sounds like a yes to me. Let's ship it.
As tester, hold on. During the regression test this morning, we found one critical defect.
As PM, a defect. How bad is it really? Can't we just fix it in a patch next week? Nobody's going to notice one little bug.
As tester, I wouldn't recommend it. I'm looking at the traceability matrix right now. This defect is directly linked to the password recovery requirement. If we release this, users won't be able to reset their passwords if they forget them.
As PM. That would be a disaster. We would be absolutely flooded with support calls.
As tester, exactly. So based on the traceability data, my professional advice is to hold the release until that defect is verified as fixed.
Okay, stepping out of character. As the PM there, I was frustrated, but I couldn't really argue with you.
You couldn't argue because I wasn't giving you an opinion. I wasn't saying I feel bad about this. I was showing you the link. This defect breaks this requirement.
It changes the power dynamic. It's not tester versus manager anymore. It's the whole team looking at the same data.
And notice the vocabulary. Executed, regression test, critical defect. It sounds objective. It sounds professional.
Speaking of vocabulary, let's take a minute for our vocabulary spot. We know some listeners are using this to polish their English for the workplace. We heard some tricky pronunciations in there.
Yeah, there are 2 big ones that always trip people up.
The first one is the title of our deep dive. Traceability.
It's a mouthful. 5 syllables. Traceability.
And where does the stress go?
It hits that middle syllable.
Right.
Traceability.
Traceability. Got it. And the second one is a word we use a lot, coverage.
This is a classic false friend. You see the word age at the end, AGE, like my age is 35. So people want to say coverage.
But we don't say that.
No. In English, that suffix is usually soft. It's coverage, just like luggage or village.
Coverage. Okay. And we also made a distinction between defect and bug. Is that just being overly formal?
In a casual chat, yeah, you can use them interchangeably. But in formal reporting, no. A bug is what you find. Hey, I found a bug. But once you log it into a system like Jira or Xray, it becomes a defect. It's a formal record of non-compliance.
And finally, test execution.
That's the action noun. You plan the test, and then you execute the test. It sounds a bit dramatic, but it just means to run the test.
I performed the test execution. Sounds a lot more professional than I clicked the button.
It certainly helps justify the hourly rate. And remember, if you're studying for the ISQQB Agile Tester certification, these are the standard terms. You have to know them cold.
So bringing it all home, start with a myth that traceability is just too much work for Agile teams.
And what we found is that with modern tools like Xray Cloud, that work is automated. It just happens in the background while you work in Jira. By treating tests as Jira issues, you get that linkage for free.
We use the GPS analogy. Without that link between the requirement and the test, you're flying blind. You don't actually know if you've arrived at your destination.
And we saw in the role play how that visibility, that map, empowers the tester to protect the product's quality. It really facilitates that whole team approach.
It really does seem like Xray gives the entire Team devs, PMs, testers, a single version of the truth.
That is the key takeaway, a shared truth. When everyone is looking at the same dashboard, the arguments stop and the problem solving can begin.
I want to leave our listeners with a challenge. A final thought to chew on before your next stand-up meeting.
What's that?
If your biggest client walked into your office right now and asked, "Prove to me that this new feature works," could you show them the data in 5 minutes? Or would you have to spend all day digging through emails and spreadsheets to piece it together?
That is the million-dollar question. If the answer is all day, you probably need to look at your traceability.
That is a wrap on this deep dive into Xray Cloud.
Don't forget to practice that vocabulary. Traceability. Coverage.
Thanks for listening.
Yeah.
We will see you in the next deep dive.